Jenna, not Jenny McCarthy. Welcome back to Love and Life.
I am so happy to be here. I have to always put that as my name
Yeah.
because even when people can tell that I'm not her, they still go, "Oh, I thought you were Jim Carrey." No, so no.
Hey, but on that note, and something that we both care deeply about, obviously medical freedom, they're having a little bit of a moment right now because they were OG questioning this childhood vaccine schedule way back when they were together. And now I think they're with other people and so forth. But it's kind of interesting to see some of our folks being vindicated now that some of this, of course, it's still very politicized. So you have to take that into account, but it's kind of cool to see.
It's amazing. I mean, that poor woman. And, I
Yes.
say this as someone who back in the day, I thought she was wackadoodle. I did. I
Yeah.
thought she was a little bit wackadoodle. I was still drinking the Kool-Aid and getting my, annual flu shot. And, if I
Mhm.
ever meet her in person, the first words out of my mouth will be, "I'm so sorry for the things I thought when I was dumb. So sorry."
Yeah. I mean, but you're not alone. There's so many of us who have been through what we've been through and have used it as a catalyst for opening our own eyes and questioning things that we just took hook, line, and sinker. So
Yeah.
that kind of gets me to what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about your next book, but I haven't had the chance to read it. Full disclosure, Jenna knows this. We talked about it before we started recording. I prefer an interview where I've actually digested the material. I mean, it's going to be so much better. And I'm excited to read it because I've been hearing, of course, in the spaces in which we are moving and shaking, we are seeing these other types. I mean, you started with the war on ivermectin with Dr. Pierre Kory, and that was obviously a huge COVID dissident movement that was squashed by the powers that be. And we can get into that also. But then because again, like you talked about, someone who you were more of a conventional follow, trust the FDA, trust the CDC, trust whatever your pediatrician and your doctors told you to do. Pierre Kory admits that he was one of those people as well. He was one of those
Yeah.
doctors who just took those top tier journals, whatever they said was gospel. And now this awakened him as well. So now he wrote with you the book, The War on Ivermectin, and now The War on Chlorine Dioxide, which I'm excited to get into. But for today's purposes, let's talk a little bit about your transformation from funny writer dealing with women's kind of stuff. And you wrote some children's books as well. But now you've really pivoted to being a full-time Substacker. So let us know all the things.
Yeah, that actually has become my job. I mean, my job
Yeah.
has been writing professionally for more than 30 years. My original background was in the magazine industry. I lived in New York City. I worked on staff for Mademoiselle, Shape, 17. I freelanced for you name it. I mean, Details, Cosmo, 60, I think, was the last count of magazines. And then many of those were translated into other languages, these publishers that have, foreign versions. And yes, to your point, it was always humor, but the topic could be anything. I wrote about sex, health, relationships, parenting. It was really just, I was the traditional women's magazine writer. Politics, never, never. Like I always say, like, who even was that person? Like if you had said to me, even 5 years ago, one day you will be spending your all day, every day exposing the seedy underbelly of corrupt organizations and agencies, literally would have laughed you out of the room. I would have laughed you out
Yeah.
of the room. But, COVID hit and, it just started. I didn't have a Substack yet. I had a blog, like on my jennamccarthy.com website. I had my little blog
Right.
and I would post stuff there and my 6 followers would see it and rah, rah, rah me. And then for a minute, I tried posting on Facebook. But
Hmm.
from the beginning of COVID, my stance was none of this makes sense. Wait, why are we locking up healthy people? Wait, why are
Right.
they telling us wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear this mask, that mask doesn't work? Like nothing made sense. So all of my commentary was maybe we should hit the brakes because nothing we're hearing is making sense. And man, Facebook didn't like that. Like
No.
Facebook, the platform didn't like that. Facebook, my friends, many of whom are no longer my friends, they
Mhm.
didn't like that. And so, I am kind of contrarian by nature. Like I always say, if there's a wet paint sign, I'm going to need to test it. I just am. I'm not going to go, okay, I'm going to go, is it wet though? Is it like, I kind of need to know. So that other than the following the CDC guidelines for most of my life, I'm a questioner. I'm a skeptic. I
Hmm.
want to know I want to know why. I want to know what's happening. I was a news junkie my whole life, which again, like Pierre, Dr. Kory, my news sources were, you know, MSNBC, and I loved BBC. Actually, that was kind of I thought I was, getting outside of any sort of narrative control in the United States by reading BBC News. That was
Right.
kind of my nighttime junkie fix. And, now they're all the same. I mean, all of them,
Yeah.
Fox, it doesn't matter. They're all, propaganda machines. They really are the fourth branch of government, right? They're just
Yeah.
the disseminator of whatever the narrative is. And, back in the olden days, like I'm old. I was born in the 60s. I like to say, when I was growing up, it was Walter Cronkite and
Mm-hmm.
Tom Brokaw, and you didn't know what their political affiliation was.
Mm-hmm.
The news wasn't, this is why Nixon is so bad. It was Nixon did this thing. It was journalism. It was who, what, when, where, why, right? It was, it's raining in the Carolinas and there was a, disaster off of, the coast of Chile, whatever it would be. And now it's so partisan and
Mm-hmm.
so scripted. And, I think they realized somewhere along the way that, we're going to have to make news into opinion because they needed to
Right.
make money. Well, half the people have this opinion and the other half have this opinion. So we'll have a conservative and then we'll have a liberal, but it's still all just what we're allowed to hear from them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no truth in journalism, and which is where Substack comes in, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad that you steered us in that direction because that's where I wanted to go as I was thinking about questions I wanted to ask you this afternoon. That's something that came to my mind is that we are so divided, and that seems to be intentional to some degree or to a great degree. And these propaganda machines, and because you vote one way, I mean, to your point about how I used to roll. I mean, I was living in Chicago. I was literally waking up at 5 a.m. to help with the fundraising drive for NPR. Like I'm driving down to Navy Pier and setting up and taking the phone calls. And I mean,
Wow.
trusting that NPR was giving me that critically understood and disseminated. And yeah, they're no propaganda machine. They want me to think for myself. They're just going to present the facts, to your point. No, I mean, think about it. Even where we are now, I think for me, COVID really woke me up in terms of you can't trust any of these mainstreams at all, any legacy at all. I cannot trust. And they're all funded. I mean, just look at their funding, whether it's
Yeah.
pharma funding, as Joe Rogan's a little video he sent out in the midst of COVID was brought to you by Pfizer every 5 seconds, every right, every morning show. And but even beyond that, if you look at who owns these entities and where are their loyalties and allegiances. So Substack is really where I've gone. And I probably started with Alex Berenson
Yeah.
during COVID because I was following him however I could. And that I think first led me to Substack. And yeah, which Unreported Truths was one of the bright lights for me in the early days, the very dark days of COVID, where I kept thinking, is anyone going to question this and challenge this?
And for
All the
folks who
things.
don't know, Alex was a New York Times reporter who was fired, right? So, and then all of a sudden, here's this platform where it's like, wow, I can actually tell the truth. So he
Yeah.
has a lot of street cred with, the more liberal folks who were following him and already trusted him, which was huge for Substack. But continue.
No. Thank you for pointing that out because I forget that yeah, the average person will not know how so many people came to Substack, and I don't know how it's framed in the legacy media now or those rogue Substackers. I don't know how
Yeah.
it, but someone like him has so much cred. Absolutely, like New York Jewish liberal New York Times reporter had done a lot of medical reporting, which is why he was very well poised to start to analyze what was actually happening during COVID. And so yeah, it's just really sad that we continue to see people, though, so partisan and so unwilling to challenge. It just seems that, and you and I have talked about this before, it just seems that so many of the entities that the right or the left would trust, now I don't understand why I'm considered a right-wing nut job because I'm for medical freedom. Because that used to be the hippies in
Right,
California when we were
right,
kids, right? It was the
right.
hippie mamas like, keep your pharma off my babies. And they were always the left-wingers. So it's just so strange. But back to Substack. Let's talk about what it can be and what it is for so many of us who are looking for voices we can trust. Are you finding that when you post, I mean, you're not dealing with any kind of algorithms or any kind of censoring? Where does it stand in terms of some of the things that we've been very frustrated with the canceling and the censoring that so many people experience when they're just trying to ask questions during COVID?
So that's a hard question to answer because I feel like my Substack trajectory has gone like this since I started. I've only grown, I've grown organically. I don't advertise. I don't, it's people cross post my work and that's all. And so I haven't seen any little dips. I haven't had, big losses of subscribers. There are two similar to my topics, not my tone or my take, but two contrarian conservative authors that write a lot about how they believe they're being shadow banned and they think all the same things that were happening on Meta, on social media during COVID is happening to them. I have not
Okay.
experienced that at all. I've not had any sort of censorship. I mean, we all have little glitches once in a while where one of my subscribers will be like, "Hey, I'm not able to like any of your posts. It just hearts
Mhm.
it and then it goes away." I don't think that's a big conspiracy against me. I've had people say all of a sudden your posts were going to my junk box when they've come to my regular inbox for all of ever. Maybe,
Mhm.
Gmail did an upgrade. Like I'm not looking for conspiracy everywhere. So for me, I have found nothing but growth. And both of these other two people, interestingly, have pointed out several times that, when Substack first started, or at least when it became popularized, I don't even know when it started, it was for people like you and I. It was for people who, I could post a picture of my children on Facebook, which we don't do anymore. That's terrible, right? And it's, all your privacy goes away. We could talk about that.
Yes.
But, if I posted a picture of my kids, I'd get 400 likes and 75 comments. If I posted, "Hey, here's this weird thing I think about masks," literally zero,
Right.
zero. Like, I don't know if it just wasn't showing up or if even people came to, like, but there was definitely shadow banning. It was unequivocal because I know
Right.
that there were people still following me that would have said something nasty about that. And at the very beginning they were, but all of a sudden it was just, I mean, I got completely kicked off of Instagram with no warning, no nothing. Like I posted misinformation. I was able to see the last post I posted and it was a CDC screenshot. And I was like, well, you're right. That was misinformation. I was totally mocking it. But so, it was very much for people like us. And then because it is easy to monetize your work there, because it's easy to grow organically, because if you like my post, you can share it with your whole audience. So I've had some
Mhm.
big accounts share it and pick up a couple of hundred, new subscribers in a day. So of course, people on the left will discover it too, right?
Yeah.
So these folks that I was telling you about that write about it, they're like, look at how these left-wing people are growing exponentially. But they're pointing out people that have massive followings. And yeah, like Rachel Maddow. So like she goes on Substack and in
Yeah.
day one, she has 1 million
Right.
followers. Well, because she
Okay.
said on her show that she has a new Substack. Like
Right.
that doesn't mean Substack is promoting her or inflating her numbers. It just means she already had an audience. When you have an
Right.
audience, then you can, cross grow that. Like Dr. Kory had a huge following on X, right? I think he has like 500,000 followers on X. As soon as he started his Substack, he had like 100, then it was 150, then it was 200 because he's on X going, read my new Substack, read my new Substack. I mean,
Right.
it's not rocket science that
Right.
this is how this could grow. So as a platform, I think it's great for both sides. I think it's my daughters are grown. My youngest is 21 and she said to me the other day, she goes, I found this really cool Substack. It was like a fashion trends. And she's like, I
Yes.
didn't know Substack had other stuff besides politics. So because she
Right.
started following me and then she went to the list of people to follow, like Chuck Childers and Matt Taibbi and Alex Berenson. And so she's just like ding, 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 ding. And she was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this gal that follows me on TikTok sent me her Substack. And I was like, there's a whole world of, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, honey, there's gardening and homesteading and homeschooling and pure fashion and literally anything. I pray to the internet gods daily that Substack never goes away. Because you own your content, you own your list. Like when you subscribe, I get your email address. I can share, your stack, like I said, with my other people. So for a content creator, There's never been anything like it, right? There's never been like, yeah, maybe somebody can share your Instagram post, but it's like, this is full feature length, I mean, it's the best platform ever. So I consider that really lucky. I've had nothing but growth and success, knock on wood.
Mhm.
My stack, it's called Jenna's Side, which sounds like genocide and can be upsetting to some people if you're delicate. It's meant to be funny because I'm a humorist. It's basically tackle a topic a day, 5 days a week, of current events. So right now it's Epstein, 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 Epstein,
Mhm.
Clinton. There's Trump stuff. It's from I mean, I'm a conservative. It's from a conservative point of view, but I bashed Pam Bondi 3 Ways to Sunday this week. I
Mhm.
try to be really fair. I try to present, both sides, so I'm not accused well, I get accused of all sorts of things.
Right.
But I try to be fair. It's always with humor, always. I mean, that's
Mhm.
kind of I don't want to write about it, and sometimes I'll be like, God, this is. I mean, you know what I'm writing about right now? I'm writing about right now
Mm.
the cannibalism in the Epstein files. I mean, good God, but
Mhm.
it's out there and I'm going to write about it and I'm going to make it as, you know, respectfully funny, humorous. I'm going to find the humor and the humor is the people who just dismiss it and write it off and like, oh, that's crazy. And, I'm circling back because when we were talking about, mainstream media and where that
Mhm.
trust went in the olden days,
Yeah.
for anybody who is still like, I don't know, I do trust the media. I don't feel like they're complicit. I mean, did we talk about Operation Mockingbird on the last podcast?
I can't remember if we did or not, but please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, you can actually Google this, and Google doesn't show you any real results anymore. You
No,
Google
right.
anything controversial, and it'll either say results are changing quickly. You're like, really? Pizzagate was 5 years ago. Okay. Or it'll just say, nope, I can't seem to find anything out there on the whole World Wide Web, but then you go to Yandex or DuckDuckGo and you can find scores of stuff about it. So
Mm.
Google is very curated right now. But if you look up Operation Mockingbird, you can find Wikipedia entries about it. You can find declassified US government documents about it. It was a CIA program initiated within our government on our people where they recruited propagandists, they recruited journalists to print what they told them to print. This was during like Vietnam and they wanted, the anti-war stuff to kind of be tamped down and there were people in the highest levels of media and they've admitted this. They've admitted it, and the people have been exposed that we're just taking money to say rather than here's the news, here's what's happening. It's like, oh, it's not as bad as you think it is, and here's why. La la la, kittens and sunshine. So our government has been guilty of so many little operations like that. These classified CIA operations that have come out. I mean,
Right.
you can even Google. This is one of my favorite things to Google and do it in quotes. Conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. There are literally hundreds of them. That people thought that was crazy talk, and that wasn't a real thing, and it was. So yes, my sweet precious pets, the government lies to us and does nefarious things behind our back. So if you think that orchestrating the media narrative isn't one of them, I hate to burst your bubble, but it is. It is. It's a propaganda machine.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe just because like you, I have that little like dissident, and I don't know if I'm a youngest child with two older brothers, and so I just kind of had to learn to be a little scrappy. But to
Word I was
me,
thinking.
yeah, I just, and my father was very dissident in he was a college professor, musician, jazz musician, so he just was always questioning and always looking at something from another angle and who's going to make bank if this continues on as is. I just don't understand people who aren't curious to ask questions like you're asking to. I mean, let's go to Operation Paperclip. We did not take care of all these evil Nazis. We brought them over and said, hey, you've got some great skill sets that we could perhaps use here. I mean, people don't, why is it? And this is, again, this is on Wikipedia. This isn't the stuff that's like you have to go digging down dark rabbit holes for.
Yeah.
This is just known. So, I mean, to your point about Mockingbird, I'm like, I don't know if that's past tense. I would argue it probably isn't. And so it's just surprising to me. For me, COVID, I was already on that dissident stance. It was just the way I am by my just my personality. But after COVID, everything
Everything.
everything is fair game. There is not one. People are like, are we living in a simulation? Possibly.
Possibly. No,
Absolutely possible.
I have written about that. Like, why is it that I went from, flat earth and what? Like,
Yeah.
all ththese conspiracies were just crazy. And now it's like, I could see why they would do that.
Yeah.
Antarctica got lots of oil and riches. Like when you go, it's like if you find out that your partner has a whole secret life that he goes to this other job all day and you're like, but I'm going to believe everything else you said to me. So you love me and you're not, having sex with like, it's just the job. Okay. You were lying about this one huge thing
Right.
about your life all day, every day, but that was it. That was your one big lie. No, you've completely lost my trust. You have completely lost my trust. You had it. I mean, you fully had it. I was buying the moon landing. I was buying all that.
Right.
I mean, none of it. I literally don't believe any of it. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, but I called it. It's almost like contagion. Like conspiracy theories are contagious. There's a comedian. I want to say his name is David Funches, something like that. If you look up online, you'll be able to find it. He does this whole bit, and it's absolutely hilarious. He's like, I can see you not believing all conspiracy theories, or like even some of them, but like none. You don't believe any? Like you just think the government is batting 1,000 and they've been straight up with you your whole life? And then
Yeah.
he ends it with this thing. He's like, here's the way I look at it. The government is in charge of all the people in the entire United States. He's like, I'm a dad. I'm in charge of one kid. I lie to that kid all the time. Like, of course they're lying. Like,
That's
why
awesome.
would you think they're not?
Yeah.
I mean, bless your heart, as we,
Right.
say in the South. Bless your
Yes.
heart.
Well, and so to that point, another topic I wanted to just pick apart with you a little bit, how you're moving through these crazy times that we're living in, because I do think that we're all kind of waking up to some degree. And again, as I said a moment ago, I would like to see some of my friends who still see this as so right left. I would like them to wake up a little bit too. And one of my friends is, I think this Epstein stuff is really starting to get her to start to question things. Now, I will say, I don't know if she's ready to go for the cannibalism yet, but I mean, I've gone down some of these rabbit holes. And again, I don't know if this is true or false, but I'm open that talk about these pedophile rings, that talk about the Satanism, that talk about the spirit dinners or some kind of creepy stuff.
Spirit cooking.
Thank you. Yeah. So to me, I'm to the point now, Jenna. Okay. So we'll toss this out as a little touchstone for the conversation. I'm to the point where now, if you are rich and famous, I think you sold your soul to the devil. I'm not talking metaphorically.
Yeah.
I'm talking literally. I'm seeing, as a Christian, I'm seeing the world, this spiritual battle, the spiritual warfare that the Bible talks about all the time. I'm seeing it like, so you were for reals about all this spiritual warfare. Like, this is kind of where I am. Where are you with again, I mean, bring in Epstein, since that's something you're writing about right now. Whatever you want to take it away.
No, 100%. I actually do. And there have been so many people in Hollywood that have come out. I mean, actually, I shouldn't say so many. A dozen that I've seen. Most of them were mysteriously suicided the next day, but have come out and talked about that they have seen this, that, oh no, they either make you participate in or watch something absolutely horrific, and then they own you. And then you have to go through these, ritual humiliations and all this kind of stuff. And again, for people who are like, that's so far-fetched, like that's
Right.
so crazy, that's so far-fetched. I mean, Satan worship has been around since the beginning of time. There have been, people have sacrificed to Moloch and Baal for centuries. This is not new. This
Right.
is not. So do you think that there aren't these really rich and powerful people that haven't studied other rich and powerful people and said, oh, okay, that's what we need to do. And just gone down that dirty road and discovered these disgusting, vile, reprehensible acts? But I mean, there's no question. There's no question that there are people sacrificing children in this world. There's no question that there are people engaging in cannibalism. There's no question that there are elite pedophiles. I mean, they're exposed every single day, single day. And so when you look at, one of the big things that I write about all the time in the context of the Epstein files is he was prosecuted for soliciting sex with a minor in like 2000. And if you look at the people who still stayed in his orbit, who still had, went to that island with him, he's a known pedophile. there's a handful of people, Trump being one of them, who said, you're out. I'm out. I'm washing my hands with you. I want nothing to do with you. And there are people like Howard Lutnick who say, well, as soon as I found that out, I washed my hands with him. And it turns out, no, you didn't. You were meeting with
Mhm.
him in 2016. So,
Mhm.
there's so many people that are involved with it. 95% of them are lying about it, and it's
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
it's Bill Clinton all over again. I did not have sex with that woman. Well, okay, fine, I did. Sorry, my bad. Like,
Well, it
I
depends
was
on the
watching
definition
Good
of
Morning.
is. You need to know
Sorry?
the definition of the word is, the verb is. What
I
does that
mean,
mean?
what I was watching, Bill and Hillary were subpoenaed. They were supposed to appear to give their
Mhm.
statements about Epstein.
Mhm.
And they blew it off. They were threatening to literally put them in jail, right? And I don't even know if the mainstream media reports on this, but it was, they completely missed the deadline. They completely didn't do it. And now she's going on the talk show circuit saying, "We want full transparency. We have nothing to hide." And she was on, it was something on the BBC, and she's in Europe somewhere at some conference. So they like sat her down and they were doing this interview, and the interviewer said, "Did you ever meet Jeffrey Epstein?" And she was like, "Never. I think Bill crossed paths with him a few times." And to your earlier point, like, so you probably know people. I don't think I know anybody like this anymore, but you probably know people who will watch that interview and take that as fact. And
Mhm.
you can search all of the Epstein files yourself and pull up the 8,000 references to Bill Clinton. You can see him in the hot tub. You can see him with young girls on his lap. You can see him on the plane. You can see the 26 flights he took to Little St. James Island. So, like, what is this like? You can just say anything?
Right.
I mean, I guess it's
Right.
not perjury because she's not under oath, but she's going to be. And that's their story. That's really their story. Like, at least if you have a brain, you'd say, we had connections with him. We were both in the same really powerful people, but we had no idea that all this other stuff was going on.
Right.
But nope, we didn't even know the guy. Like, that was weird. It's like the toddler covered in crumbs
Right.
going, I didn't eat the cookie. Okay. Okay.
Well, and one of the famous bits of information that I think most people know at this point is in Jeffrey Epstein's massive, I think Wexner funded townhome in Manhattan, like the most expensive piece of real estate in Manhattan, is my understanding. There is an oil painting of Clinton, Bill Clinton, in a blue dress, which of course is a nod to Monica Lewinsky's blue dress that was part of the whole scandal from back in the day. An oil painting of Clinton cross-legged lounging back in a blue dress. That's weird.
That's not weird. He also has paintings of babies being eaten. What's the other? He has he has the painting of George W. Bush sitting on the floor cross-legged holding a paper. Have you seen this one? Holding
No,
a
this one
paper
I haven't.
airplane and sitting in front of two Jenga towers, two towers of Jenga, like in the
Oh.
classroom, which is where he was the morning of 9/11, right?
Mhm.
So it's in that setting, and he's holding a paper plane and aiming it at two Jenga towers.
That
That's not
tracks.
sus at all. Like, I mean, the world is just filled with coincidences, Karen. It
Right.
happened.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, 9/11, that's just a joke, and I still can't even like, you have to watch, like, a 10-minute documentary that you can find on YouTube. You don't even have to go that far to
Yeah.
see what an obvious inside job that was. I mean, give me a break. But
Controlled demolition, buildings
oh,
that
yeah.
weren't even hit, collapsing on command. I think that, with COVID, I used to say, I feel like people aren't switching sides, like they're not coming over to my side because it's too hard, right? It's too hard to say, I harmed myself, I harmed my children, I
Yeah.
took this poison, and that I get, right? Like, that's not my personality. Like, because as soon as I realized, oh my God, Pharma bad, my first thought was, oh, all the things I gave my kids. And
Right.
I
Sure.
dropped to my knees, pray to God that I was doing the best I could with the information I had. And
At the time.
thank you for, sparing us thus far. With all this stuff, yes, it is hard. It was so much easier being asleep and clueless and believing that 9/11 was this big scary terror attack, but now they were going to
Mhm.
protect us by making us take our shoes off at the airport. Like, they got this. They got, yeah,
Mhm.
that felt like a safer world,
Mhm.
and so I can see why people don't want to give that up. But at some point, I just feel like you do, like you have to go, maybe there's something to this, you know? Like one thing I said this with COVID too, but I think there are so many parallels between that and the whole bigger picture of the,
Mhm.
the corruption, which is during COVID, there was a one-way street happening, right? There was I didn't know one person, not one, who didn't get vaccinated and regretted it. I know the news would have the occasional story about unvaccinated man dies, oh, he got hit by a
Mm.
truck. I mean, that
Yeah.
that happens. But I know personally dozens, and I've seen online hundreds of thousands, all the injured people that are like, I wish I could take it back, wish I never did it. This ruined my life. So there's so many people going from I was a pharma believer to now I don't trust you. There's very few people, I think, in this world that felt like we did, suspicious of government back in the day and took the vaccine anyways and went, that was the best thing I ever did. That was the
Right.
best thing I ever did. And now I'm going to take anything that they ever put out because that feels really good. I don't think so. And I don't think there's a lot of people gaining trust in the government these days, right? It's definitely, people are like, no, this doesn't make sense. No, that it just, there's too much.
Okay, but then you have RFKJ with this whole hearing, press conference about autism, and they kind of inched around it, and then a little bit of alluding to Amish community, for example, no autism, no ADHD, very few allergies, and so forth. But one of the main things that came out, and this was last fall, was that Tylenol, there could be a link when pregnant women take Tylenol to having autistic children. Well, and then we saw on TikTok, people on the left, oh, really, RFKJ, since you're with Trump, get me my Tylenol, click, click. So that's where my pushback, Jenna. Wish I would see some of that, but I think that so much that's happening that where people are waking up to a degree and going, wait, I can't trust these entities, the establishment in whatever form, the way I used to. And yes, it was a safer world and it felt better, but I've got to be a critically thinking human. We still have people who now go, oh no, I don't care that RFKJ is literally Kennedy, literally Democrat royalty. He's now aligned with Trump. Therefore, whatever he says, I'm doing the opposite. Give my baby 72 vaccines from 0 to 18. No, let's make it 102. Like there are people who are digging in hard because of the
Okay,
politicization.
but first of all, I would venture to say that there is an spectrum of mental illness across the, entire globe where this is none at all. You are Buddhist enlightened all the way down to, you're eating live kittens, I don't know, like the worst of the worst. So, and I do know, and I think this is part of that whole thing we were talking about the intentional division.
Mm-hmm.
Those people get amplified by both sides. I'm guilty too. I'll share that crazy. I did. I wrote about that. I wrote about the pregnant women going, I'm going to
Yep.
guzzle a bottle of Tylenol just as a big fat middle finger to RFK.
Yep.
You're way down here on the spectrum. You are mentally ill, but you're also, and we, all of us, myself included, will go, look at how crazy the left is. No, that's the craziest crazy on the farthest left. I do genuinely believe that the middle is 80% of us, right? The middle of where we want the same things, right? We want our families to be healthy. We want clean food. We want, the people who aren't crazy like that, but who are still going to get their COVID vaccine and aren't doing it for any political motivation whatsoever. They think, because they've been lied to, they think that they're making themselves healthier, right?
Right.
Which is the very reason we're avoiding it. So we have more in common than we're disalike, but it's the constant messaging of the right does this and the left does this and showing the craziest of the crazies, the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Tylenol swilling pregnant lady. Like there is a big portion in the middle where I think we could have conversations if we were willing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm never
Well,
going to have a conversation with that crazy lady, but
no.
I've had some interesting conversations with friends who feel very differently than me. I had a friend during COVID and it actually kind of broke my heart because she called me and she said, "Can I just ask you why you're not getting the vaccine?" And I said, "Because it's brand new and it's untested and I don't think that anyone in my family is at grave risk. I've looked at all the numbers and, every single person who has died has had 4+ comorbidities and it's literally not a risk to children and there are potential side effects." She got quiet for a second and she said, I just worry about your girls. And I was like, and I worry about yours.
Yeah.
Like I wish you knew what I knew. I wish you'd seen what I've seen. If
Hmm.
you had, I would feel really, really confident that you would think the way I do. Like, I've seen everything you've seen. I've seen the
Right.
CDC
Right.
data. I've seen CNN. I've watched Rachel
Right.
Maddow, but I've also seen all this other stuff that you're not being shown. You know, one of my Substacks, it was actually a really popular one. I can't believe I can't remember his name offhand. There's a guy that infiltrated the CHD, the Children's Health Defense Fund, or
Oh
Children's
yeah.
Health Defense, which was Bobby Kennedy's nonprofit, which he sold when he got into office. But they've been, anti-vax vaccine researchers forever. And they have an annual conference, just like the FLCCC or, any big nonprofit would have. And he's a physician. He's super pro vaccine. He vaccinates all day, every day. And he infiltrated it and wrote this piece. I think it was for The Atlantic. And he tells the story in his piece about how he's walking in and a man walked up to him. And I know who the man is. His name's Tom Haviland. He walked up to him with a vial of blood clots and said, look at these blood clots.
Hmm.
And he was like, yeah, so there's lots of whack jobs around here or something like that. And so I wrote a Substack about here's this man who feels really strongly about, vaccines. And he went to this anti-vaxxer convention and he didn't ask a single question. He didn't follow up with Tom and say, hey, what are those? Why would you be
Yeah.
carrying that around? They were taken out of vaccinated people's bodies. They're rubbery, long, gelatinous blood clots, the likes of which, embalmers and doctors have never seen before COVID. But he didn't ask any of those questions. And his big takeaway was, wow, they're really organized. I'm not kidding. Those Maha people, they're really organized. And so I wrote a funny but scathing, like, dude, really? That's what you got from attending this 4-day conference? And I guess it got to him somehow, my
Was
post.
it wasn't it his dad somehow? Because I read that one because I was at the conference. And so
Oh,
I was
no
really,
way.
yeah. So I was really curious when I saw you write about that. I was like, oh yeah, let's see what this guy, he's like an anthropologist going into the jungle of the crazy Maha anti-vaxxers. And of course, his position was exactly what I would have expected. And I loved how you ripped them apart. And then you guys had an interview. It was
We
quite,
kind of became
yeah.
friends. Like I wrote a not kind. It was not kind. I wrote a
No,
not kind, I kind of eviscerated him.
you
And
did.
he showed up
Well
in the
done.
comments and we kind of became friends. And he set me like I said, for a man who reeks of institutional arrogance. And he like went on Chat GPT and made a bottle of cologne, institutional arrogance, and told me a story that his dad, he's a grown man, I'm not quite as old as me, but probably in his 40s or 50s. His dad called him one day and said, hey, your mom and I are at the mall. Do you need any new cologne? They have institutional arrogance on sale. So he was a great sport and we had a great conversation. But, at one point I said, let me ask you something honestly. Like, is your goal in having this conversation hoping to bring me more to your side, hoping to make me see how important these vaccines are? And, like really just go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And he goes, not at all. Like, I'm just curious how the other side thinks. And I was like, really? Because I want to convert you so bad it hurts. Like, I literally want to grab you by I told him this in the interview and I aired it.
Mm.
I was like, I want to grab you by the shoulders and I want to shake you. And I want to like tie you to a chair and make you watch and read everything that I've watched and read because I know for a fact you wouldn't still think the way you do unless you're being literally paid millions and billions of dollars by pharma to not see,
Right.
what's right in front of your face.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's not joining the tribe anytime soon.
No, 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 no. And it goes back to, though, what we talked about at the top with doctors like Kory and doctors like McCullough who had every flu shot, had every jab, and then now they're examining and they're looking at the legit research, not the co-opted research or the research that's bought and paid for by pharma. And they're going, I wouldn't give any of my children another vaccine ever. I regret that I ever did. I would never take another vaccine myself. I mean, this is where we have people who, and to your point, I feel that way so much. I mean, there's young people in my family who are having babies, and I'm like at my wit's end because they don't trust what I trust. They trust the establishment, and it's terrifying to me.
Yeah, I mean, my sister's in the same boat, and she has just said, don't tell me don't tell me what they're like, if you bring up vaccines, you don't get to see the kids anymore. That's what her kids will say. Like you just, we're not
Wow.
talking about it. And she's tried to send him stuff and they're like, You're treading on thin ice." And it's like, you don't even, I just can't imagine going, la, 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 don't want to know, don't want to know,
Yes.
don't want to know. I'm bringing my kid to like, how powerful is this grit? And it really is propaganda.
Yes.
Like there is I've watched, actual Nazi propaganda experts talk about this is exactly how they do it. It's dehumanization, it's repetition of message. It's, they have their little things, horsey wormer, safe and effective. And it just becomes
Mm-hmm.
a given, right? Like you're just gonna
Right.
say, oh, it's safe and effective. Show me where
Right.
it's safe, show me how it's effective. You can't. You can't.
Yeah, it's like you said, the dehumanization. You're not a person anymore, a critically thinking person who's done a crap ton of research. Now you're just an anti-vaxxer. That's who you
Anti-vaxxer.
are.
Mhm.
Anti-vaxxer. A disparaging comment, a blanket statement that puts you in this category of idiot and fringe. Instead of like, well, I respected Jenna's opinion on like 100,000 other realms or concerns, but this one, because she crossed that line, now she's anti-vaxxer. And that's all she is. And every opinion she has about this, it's just from her very, again, fringe position at this point. It's really depressing. It's also, I was talking to one of my left wing friends, and it was not so long after the whole RFKJ and the autism press conference, and she has a nurse friend, establishment nurse friend, and I said, I don't understand how people can't be excited about, the food pyramid is flipped on its head. We've all known it was, you can tell because your pant size will tell you that the food pyramid was horrific and stupid. And so obviously, keto, all these Atkins, for years we've known we had it all wrong. Anyway, so we flip that on its head and people can go, okay, I guess so. And I said, I don't understand how people can be so resistant to the idea that there's something going on with American children. We're literally the sickest. We have autism that went from 0 in 10 to 1 in 10,000 when I was a child to now 1 in 33 in certain counties in
1 in
America,
12 boys in some places.
like
1 in
Jersey,
12.
right? Or California, a couple, yeah,
I think it's in New
exactly.
York.
Yeah, in New York, yeah. So I'm sitting here and I'm saying, I don't understand. He's questioning. It may not be just vaccines. I think it's certainly related. You could, and anyway, I said it could be the glyphosate. It could be the toxins in the air. It could be toxins in the water. It could be a million things. But why are people on the left so upset that RFKJ is coming in and trying to ask questions and look under every stone to protect American children? Because what's been going on has not been working. And she goes, well, my friend, she's just a nurse. He's just chucking all this established research, all these people who've devoted their entire lives to public health.
Like Anthony Fauci. Seriously.
Right. Exactly. And I'm like, again, so it gets back to the point we said earlier. People who are so happy to trust, and to your point, cover their ears and cover their eyes and blah, 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 blah. And when he's, why to me? Do not lie to me. Do not lie. Do not play me. The last 5 years has shown me that we've been played for fools. And why everyone else isn't as irate as I am, because I thought we were like the land of the free, home of the brave. Yeah, right. And I thought we were these we crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Our ancestors came here for a better life, rugged pioneers. I don't see any of that. I see a lot of lemmings is what I see, who would rather just stay in their little safe fantasy world than actually ask questions and be excited about people in power who are just charging through and saying enough and turning over tables. Take it.
Everything you just said, but bigger and louder. I don't know how to say that better. I can't, I just everything you said, I genuinely can't imagine. There are documentaries out there. There's Vaxxed, that I think that was the first one that Del Bigtree did.
Yeah.
You can't watch that and at least go, for some people, there's a connection. There are people that have videos of the morning of their child's last vaccine, the coming home, the uncontrollable crying, the immediate head banging, and then the complete loss of all verbal skills.
Yep.
Coincidence? Hundreds of thousands of time?
Yeah.
Why would you want to gaslight another parent? And how does it benefit you to go, la, la, la? Yes, because you did that to my kid was fine. Sure. My grandparents smoked until they're not, lived into their 90s and they smoked. They got lucky. I don't know what to tell you, but some people don't. And just because you're fine, that was something I heard with the COVID vaccine too. Well, there's millions of people that aren't.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got lucky, but that doesn't mean you say about our side all the time, correlation doesn't equal causation, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing. I don't know. I mean, I see like everything Bobby Kennedy's doing is like, you go. I
Yeah.
have to fight with a constant, there's not a big one. I would say, I mean, really roughly guesstimating 15 to 20% of my followers, because they've probably stopped following me if they don't like that I'm a fan and I champion him.
Right.
And because I've been saying all along, the guy literally inherited a disaster. And he
Hmm.
got into that position by the skin of his teeth. And, they took him into this world and they could take him out of it. They could kill him. They could,
Hmm.
impeach him. There's a million things they can do. So he's got to tread really lightly. And there's this small percentage that is, not enough. Now, I don't
Right.
know if you follow Peggy Hull. I used to follow
Yeah.
her. She's an attorney. She was a big Bobby fan and just literally turned on a dime and just uses his platform to, he's a mole. He's
Hmm. Hmm.
controlled opposition. He's working for the other side. He's a liar. He got into this position. He's not doing anything. The red dye out of Cheerios. We have people dying from the vaccine. Like, two things can be true. Two
Yeah.
things can be true at the same time. Getting the red dye out of food can be a positive thing. And yes, people are still dying of the vaccine, and has a plan to work toward that. And this whole, like, you're not doing enough because you didn't change the entire world 180 degrees the day you got into the office, you're dead to me, is, I think, you're the controlled opposition. You're the one working for the other side. Like, hey, let's sow this seed of
Yeah.
disappointment among his supporters when he needs supporters more than ever. He needs championing. He needs people defending him. He needs people, going out and spreading his message, not too little too late. Sorry, buddy, you're worthless. You're a fraud, right?
Hmm.
He's not. He spent 40 years of his life protecting
Hmm.
children and protecting health. You think
Hmm.
he's just going to get in there? And there have been times when I've wondered, I'm like, why hasn't he said something about this? What, is he being blackmailed? Is he being
Yeah.
bribed? Is he being
Yeah.
threatened?
Hmm.
Did they threaten his family? Like,
Right.
I'm here to tell you, somebody threatens my kids, puts a gun to my head and says, I'm going to shoot your kids unless you say I was wrong about Epstein. I'm going to type that sentence out. I am. I'm going to
Right.
type that sentence out.
Yeah.
So that can happen, but I don't think that's what we're seeing. I do not. I don't. And I'm Pollyanna. I say it all the time in my Substack. I see silver linings. I'm kittens and sunshine. So I want to believe the good, but I'm also not dumb or naive. I'm not.
And I think that's where you have to go. I mean, what's the alternative? Just to be doom and gloom and to not give someone the benefit of the doubt that they are, in fact, doing what he said he was going to do, what he ran for president to do. I mean, to me, everything, yeah. I mean, there's a part of me like way early just right after the inauguration and where things felt a little more slow moving. I remember I was watching Brett and Heather Weinstein and The Dark Horse I listened to a lot. And he was worried that Bobby was being blackmailed because he was expecting it. And they're friends. I mean, they've been in this movement together now for several years, if not longer. And this is his friend he's speaking of, and he was concerned. He's like, I'm not seeing what we wanted to see as quickly as we wanted to see it. And was he being blackmailed? And so I think everyone has these places to go in our heads but it's otherwise, if we don't find that silver lining like you're doing, then we're really, I mean, how do we survive really? Because what we're about to unearth, I think, or what we're in the midst of unearthing, again, back to Epstein, it's really, it could be so horrifying. I mean, for you and me, we'd be like, yeah, kind of saw it coming. But for a lot of people, the normies, as they call them, this is going to be, if it all comes out. But I don't know that I actually have that much hope that it'll all come out. I don't know. Where are you with that? I know we got to land this plane, but where are you with like kind of like, like you said, like looking at people's voices and going, wait, are you the controlled opposition? Are you planted to
Right.
get us all at each other to make the Maha movement stop supporting our leaders and so forth? Where are you with all of this? And I know you have V. You're always referencing V because he's one that's he's a little bit of a doom and gloomer, and every time you try to put a positive spin, he comes at you in the comments. But yeah, so yeah, to talk about like again where you are as we see things, and of course there's so many other topics we could cover because it seems like there's one coming every day, from Savannah Guthrie's poor mother to Charlie Kirk's assassination. I mean, it seems like there's always the next thing to get us all uncertain and feeling like the ground is shifting beneath us. And I don't know if that's not also planned, but anyway, take it away, Jenna.
Really am. I am an impossible optimist. I always say my glass isn't half full, it's overflowing. I say and I mean this with no disrespect to people who actually suffer depression. I know many of them personally. I have whatever the opposite of depression is. I wake up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, not because, oh, I can't sleep. I'm so miserable. My mind is racing. It's like, I have so much I want to do. I have things I want to say. I have things I want to read and research. And I have a zest for life that, as bad as all of this stuff that we're finding out, like, don't lie to me. I'd rather know. I would
Yeah.
absolutely rather know. Give me all the bad. Let me do with it what I will. I don't necessarily want all the sort of details. I certainly don't want the visuals. I don't want to see
Yeah.
anything that I can't
Mm-mm.
unsee. I am a
Yeah.
very visual person and I don't
Yeah.
want that. But yeah, I want to know who's doing what. I obviously I want there to be consequences. That's the part that, frankly, if I were to admit to worrying about something, like, I think it's all going to come out. I think we're going to know at
Okay.
the end of the day who is doing what, maybe not to what extent, but I think, like, I saw a headline the other day that was interesting. It was like, the Epstein files are literally destroying Europe's political and whatever the crown, whatever the adjective is for that, royal,
Yeah.
worlds. And in the US, not so much. I mean, and this was like the Atlantic or the New York Times. It was like, yeah, here, not so much. Because
Yeah.
we just sweep stuff under the rug and they'll go, yeah, Clinton did that. That naughty, naughty bad boy. He's a
Hmm.
boy. Just like Trump, Trump said that, grab them by the, oh,
Yeah.
that's just locker talk, whatever. We're going to, because we have that propaganda machine. So that will be spun. I do think it will come out. The part that I hope I'm wrong about is I don't see a whole lot of consequences
Right.
happening, and for these people, like, I was writing today about an Epstein associate. So my topic today, do I have time for this real quick?
Please. Yeah.
It was the Life Touch Photography. So Life Touch Photography is the company that goes into 50% of schools in the US and Canada, photographs about 25 million students every single year, sometimes twice a year. Who needs that? They get
Mm.
all this information on the kid. You have to fill out your home address on the Life Touch form, like, why they're taking it at school, but they know the child's, they have their biometric data, they have their age, their class, their teacher, their home address. And so it came out in this latest Epstein file that here's Life Touch. They're owned by Shutterfly. Shutterfly is part of a portfolio of Apollo Global Management. The guy that ran Apollo Global Management was an Epstein connection. He was tried for horrific sexual assaults on underage girls. He was found trafficking, like, major art, like major missing, like Monets and, things that are just missing. He's a multi billionaire. He paid Jeffrey Epstein 100 and estate planning advice. He's a hedge fund manager. Jeffrey Epstein had no qualifications in those realms, but that's what the receipts were for. And so parents are freaking out. They're canceling school picture day, across. So, like, this is on CNN. Schools cancer picture day over tangential Epstein connection. And so that kind of stuff is waking people up.
Hmm.
But, I'm writing about this guy. This guy was tried and convicted of all these things. He just walks among us. He lives in New York. He was the CEO of the Museum of Modern Art. Like, who
Yeah.
keeps putting these people in power and keeping them in power? And,
Yeah.
I know that just being mentioned in the Epstein files is not an implication of any wrongdoing. How many times do you have to see that sentence? But,
Right.
like, if your social network over and over and over and over crosses paths with these dirty, disgusting, vile people, at some point you got to go, what did you know?
Yeah.
What did you know and when? And obviously, like I said earlier, there are people that maintained contact with him for a decade
Right.
after his conviction. Epstein's, not this guy, Black.
Right.
So, I think that, and one of the other things in my stack today was how he paid this guy, a Black is his last name, the Apollo Shutterfly Life Touch guy. Some of his legal troubles were in the Virgin Islands, which is where Jeffrey Epstein's, little St. James was. And he paid the government $65 million. Like, okay, so we're not going to talk about this anymore, basically. Like, and that's in a New York Times headline,
Hmm.
right? So it's like, we actually live in a world where you
Right.
can just, I mean, and if you think about it on the most basic level, right? You go rob a store, you can post bail. You can post
Yeah.
bail. So if you're rich and you rob a store, you can just go right
Right.
home.
Right.
But if you're poor and you rob a store, you're staying in jail. Like,
Right.
how the whole bail, I mean, I get it. We're innocent until we're proven guilty, but why make it so the only rich people can avail
Right.
themselves of something like that? Like, we really do have it's not even 2-tiered, it's like a 10-tiered justice system. So, you know, I pray that there are consequences, that justice is served. That's all I could
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I think that's another thing that is becoming more and more clear. Like you said, how many tiers, I'm not sure, but there's definitely, it does feel like there's this world that operates, and most of us are totally unaware of how they're operating and how they're wielding their power and exchanging influence. And we're just down here slugging away and paying our taxes like good little citizens. And then they take
Right.
our tax dollars and they launder it, and they start wars so that Lockheed can make more money. No offense to Lockheed. My brother-in-law worked there for his whole career. But point is,
And they want us all dead. Like, how
yes,
boring will the ant farm be without the ants? Why would you want it? Then it's just a plexiglass box. Like, come on. Let us run on our little hamster wheels and
right.
entertain you. And,
Right. Yeah. So anyway, this obviously is a part one for many more conversations if you're willing, Jenna, because it's therapy for me to be able to speak so candidly about these
yeah.
things and know that there is someone who I'm very much impressed by your intellect and your wit, obviously, and enjoy your Substack so much. So let people know how to find it so they can sign up. I would just encourage anyone who has those dark moments. Jenna's take will affirm your concern and yet bring you some levity, bring you a little smile in the midst of whatever this is that we're going through.
I do try.
You
I should have
do?
put it on my little name. It's Jenna's Side with 2 S's, JENNAS side.rocks. So if you just type that in, it should take you right there. If you go to Substack, you could either type in Jenna's Side or Jenna McCarthy, and it should take you there. Or you can email me, Jenna McCarthy, and I'll send you a link.
Because it's a little different with Substack. This took me a second to navigate. You have Jenna McCarthy, but then your publication is Jenna's Side. So someone could follow you and think that they were set, but they haven't subscribed to your
Oh, yeah, you have to
publication.
subscribe. And it's like, they make you go through this whole, like, when you go to subscribe, it's like, do you want to give her money? It's like, dude, just
Yeah.
let me see if I like it first. Do
Yeah,
you want to
right.
recommend her? I don't know. I haven't read it yet. So you got to go through
Yeah.
I don't set that up. I have nothing to do with that. Every time I
Right.
follow a new person, it's like, I'm not giving you money yet. I'm not recommending you yet. I'd like
Right.
to, get in the front door before I start referring people. But yeah, that's none of me. Do you want to gift a subscription? No, I want to just read it.
Right. All right. Well, thanks again. And then we'll have you on sooner than later to talk about your new book.
I hope
and
you get
share
it
that.
really soon. Here it
Yeah.
is. I hope you get it.
Thanks, Jenna.
Love and Life with Dr. Karen and Pastor Elliot is produced by Tim May and executive producer Dr. Karen Anders-Nabel. For more information about Love and Life, please go to loveandlifemedia.com.